Hey guys. Nah, new vid's not gonna happen tomorrow. I'm just gonna do it now because I gotta help a friend move and stuff tomorrow. So, basically, I gotta get this video done early, and and I'm like, well, might as well stream. I got nothing else going on here, and I'm sure everybody might be bored. So I hope everybody's bodies are ready to receiveth the goodness that is some spooky stories. These ones are going to be good. These are about urban exploration. If yins are afraid, or not afraid, but familiar with that, it's going to be sweet. So we got about 7 of those coming up. Cashy's in the building. The mod, she says, just landed in the 6. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Also, I turned up the voice a little bit for this time. I noticed it was a little bit low, and this seems to kind of turn up the gain. You know what I'm saying? Get them gains. That hope it sounds okay to everyone. I also I've ordered a. It wasn't too expensive. It was like $35. It was like a wireless lavalier mic, and Jen says I have my diaper on just in case he poops himself. That's good. I don't though, so it's gonna fall right on the floor, and I'm gonna be stepping around in it. But yeah, I got a wireless lavalier mic on the ready, so I'm hoping that, because I think some of like the sort of noise that gets picked up on the actual microphone, that's not like necessarily preferable, though I know not everyone is, hearing that and whatnot. It's like my own personal little qualm with the audio quality, so and I think it's mainly because like the wire that leads to the actual computer gets tugged around and stuff, and then like sort of creates like an indirect noise. So I'm just like talking out of my butt right now because I'm not a audio genius, but we shall see. Venikins art. Venikins, welcome back. It's good to see you with the 2. It says, hi Joel, how's you and P Diddy doing? P Diddy Pradeep. I had my AC on earlier, and I think it was pointing in his direction, so he seems to have preferred the living room location most of all lately, so he's doing good though. He's had a very busy day of laying around and looking at birdies. Pushu with the 5 says, take my moolah. Thank you, Pushu. I appreciate the moolah. Yeah, I saw Corpse Husband had streamed earlier, so I dropped him some bones over there. It's always good to it's good to hear that he's maybe coming back here with some fresh beats. And yeah, I hope he's feeling better, and I hope things start getting better for him. I mean, it sucks. Like, health issues are such a terrible thing that when you go through them and then you get out of it, you're just thankful for every day that you're not back at that low point, and sometimes you need those low points to kind of give you perspective in life, but you do need to at one point be able to get out of that. So I'll be praying that he does well, and obviously any support that Mr. Corpse needs, I hope everyone can show him that love. Miss Molly with the 5 says, first time in a stream for a while, hope your weekend is good. Thank you. Yeah, weekend is good, just trying to get these stories recorded early so I can get it ready for Monday's Memorial Day video. Not that it really has much to do with Memorial Day at all, unless you do urban exploration. And Cashy says, I was so tempted to get Prego in Punta Cana. It is definitely a temptation for all of us when we pass through there. Something in the air is just very, very fertile right now. Dwight Schrute's here. Hi, Dwight. The assistant to the manager, regional manager. Prego wouldn't be the worst thing to bring back from Punta Cana. Corpse Read. It's Corpse Read here, guys. So there's, yeah, what is there? Corpse Bride, Corpse Husband, and then I could be Corpse Adopted Redhead. If I speak other languages, oh, I don't know. I've never tried it. Yeah, but I saw, yeah, Corpse had about 4,000 people there, averaging in his live stream, so that's great. I hope anybody that was there, you know, I appreciate you supporting a fellow streamer. Keep us updated on what's going on with him. I didn't get to catch whether or not there was any timeline for new videos or not, so I'm kind of completely out of the loop there, but I'll be looking forward to it. David Sims with a $5. Rock on, brother. Rock on, brother. And Alma with the 2 says, "You're one of my favorites. Love your videos." Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we've been kind of on like a roll as far as releasing these theme videos on Monday, so. And Gothic Rose with the 2 Canadian maple syrup bucks says, "Thanks for another stream. You rock like always." Thank you, Gothic. It's good to see you. Saw your comments on Twitter. Appreciate that. Appreciate the support. If you guys want to follow me on social media and all that, be sure to check the description down below. And usually just so I can keep you up to date when I'm gonna stream, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter, all that good stuff. Also, hit the like button if you haven't already. I hear that it helps get it out to more viewers. Never too certain about that, to be honest, but hey, what can you do? You gotta try everything, you know what I mean? The Bass Kicker 88 with the 5 says, "Still love your content and streams, brother. You are very awesome at what you do, and naturally you are freaking dope. Can't wait to see what you do next." Thank you, Bass Kicker. Keep on slapping the bass and kicking it, you know what I mean? That dude's currently watching Drake and Josh while listening to the stream. That's good. We need to keep tabs on those boys, see what they're up to. A bunch of always getting into something. Blue Note, welcome back, Blue Note. She throwing down a big 15 and says, "Dude, I saw you drop some cash on Corpse Stream, so here's something to help replenish some love." Love you, man. Thanks. Yeah, I didn't get to actually see if Corpse got to see it or not. Cause I know, his donations were flooded, and obviously makes sense. I mean, it's been like 10 months since we've seen content or really heard from him other than on Twitter and all that kind of stuff, so, and Instagram. But yeah, it's awesome to see him getting a lot of love. But thank you. Yeah, everything has now been replenished. Blue Rooster with 5 says, "What's up, Dank Daddy? Love the work." Hey, Dank Daddy loves working. I find myself kind of, I mean, like, I'm just very thankful to be doing YouTube and all that kind of stuff. It's given me a new sort of passion for life, just, you know, really getting enthralled in what I do. Yeah, this has been an awesome experience. I wouldn't say that I'm a workaholic, because, you know, you definitely enjoy your free time, but whenever I went on the vacation, we went on a cruise and stuff like that, I found myself, like, I didn't really enjoy the idea of just kind of like laying around and drinking, though that's you know, to a lot of people that sounds like a fantastic experience to just kind of relax and stuff, but I'm always more, I really like to have my mind engaged in something, so whether that's a good conversation or coming up with something, new ideas, working on something, that's definitely what I'm into. So if you guys have any new ideas for where the channel should go, I'm always open to that, because after that Alien 500 subscriber video, I got really, I'm feeling real inspired based on seeing the work from Robin to get somebody who can maybe write some scripts, and we can start exploring some some nice creepy topics here. Colin Grandamond with the 10 Canadian says, Daddy Joel is back with my latest kink. Keep up the great work, Joel. Thank you. Thank you. Like I said, if it involves me, there will be no shaming. Bennikin's Art with a 5 says, Yins, you're up from north, ain't ya? I live in Pittsburgh, PA for a year. I'm back in Florida land now with the rest of the crazies. Oh yeah, Florida man will get ya. And yeah, I'm in Pennsylvania, so it's funny because a lot of the students and just people from here are from the Pittsburgh region, and they throw down the yins from time to time, so it's always funny to include it in a conversation here and there. Kaylin, what's up, Kaylin Sanchez says, I heard that the music you listen to while preggo is typically the music your baby loves to sleep to. Now, if that is true, it's weird that my baby will be addicted to your voice. Is that weird? That is more than okay. That's honestly, my hope is that at least 50% of the audience is preggo, and I can continue to keep my base as time goes forward. We have to indoctrinate the next wave of Let's Readites. Or what word did I say? We were before. I think we came to the final conclusion that people that follow me will be known as juggalos. It's a new term. Came up with it recently myself. It's pretty unique, strictly to my personal followers. So if you guys are cool with being juggalos, I think that's seems like a solid direction to go with things. Dude, Florida Man horror stories would be perfect, actually. That sounds hilarious. True scary Florida Man horror stories. That's hyper specific, but I think everyone would know what it meant, and that could be my big break. My big break that takes me to 1 million subs. The background music that's playing right now, been including it in most of the streams as of late, is called, well, the channel is called No Copyright Music Free Audio Library, and the I'm not exactly sure of the, oh wait, actually I might know the actual songs here. So that's at 154. So it's like the first song. It's called Better Days by Lakey, or Better Days, Lakey inspired. Okay, yeah, and like the video is, if you just type in like low chill hip hop free or whatever, basically the title's chill lo-fi hip hop beats free, copyright free, low hip hop, chill hop music. Basically it's covering all bases with the metadata and tags and all that kind of title and all that kind of stuff. Jolgalos would be good too. What's up, 13 past midnight? Good to see ya. But yeah, and then it's got all the tracks listed in the description, but I'm definitely a fan of the lo-fi, or just hip-hop in general. Something relaxing. If I knew how to make music, that probably would be the genre that I goeth downeth. Does anyone here make music at all? That's curious about that. I saw Corpse Husband had made music, which I never really listened to Sesh or Bones and that kind of thing, but I definitely like the idea of it. It's like, it's definitely a darker direction of hip hop, which I enjoy. Alma with the 2 says, "Is it weird that I want to know what you look like?" I don't think so. I think that's a pretty common question. And if you guys, one of the motivating factors, besides all the amazing people in my Discord, to join the Discord, is to go down below to the description, click in there, and you'll find a link to my Discord. And then in the selfies channel, I guess you can call it, in Discord, you will find a nice little treat that, well, quite a few little treats that might satisfy that itch. Braden Roy with the 5 Canadian says, "I pulled an all-nighter last night and just got home from a 12-hour shift. Guide me to slumber with that silky smooth voice of yours, doink, daddy. I will do that. Brayden, I will lead you there. To the dreamland. It's so funny, dreams are so funny. I mean, I've had like probably the weirdest dreams. Whenever I like take ZQuil, which has Benadryl in it, which, you know, the side effects of that are like drowsiness and knocking people out. But on my cruise, it was the first time I've ever taken Ambien, and I was always kind of anti-Ambien just because I don't know, it just seemed like a bit of an overkill, and I've always felt like I could fall asleep on command. But what do you even do with Canadian donations? It all converts. It all converts over. It's not like they send me a bunch of Canadian dollars or something like that. YouTube figures it out. But yeah, I've had some pretty wacky dreams on the Benadryl and Ambien, and it's weird. It's like you like sometimes wonder how your subconscious or whatever it is, your brain creates those scenarios that you see in your dreams, and it's just baffling. Did the last stream reach 400 viewers? I believe we got up to 400. It's so weird. I have no idea what constitutes anyone being notified that a stream is happening. Obviously, I think a little bit of, you know, promotion to tell people that you are going to stream definitely helps. But it was just, but the weird thing is I remember I streamed on a Sunday at like midnight one time, going into Monday, and I obviously, like, over the course of the stream, we reached like 1,200 viewers, which is like, you know, tippy tier, like high quality streamer viewership, or like, you know, a lot of the people I watch who play Overwatch, like the top guys get, you know, around 1,200 or more, you know what I mean? So it's unpredictable what it is that brings people. I remember we were really telling people to hit that like button, so I don't know if that helps at all. It's really hard to predict, but honestly, you guys have been just about 200 of you here right now, which I'm totally fine with, because I'm going to be recording anyways. I mean, I would still stream to 2 people, you know, because I'm be making the videos anyways here. Alma with the 2 says, will you tell me how to do it again, please? Oh, for Discord. So there's a link down below. It's like an invite. You have to be invited to Discord, which might end up taking you to a website to create an account for Discord. And basically Discord's like its own individual, it's kind of like Skype where you can do phone calls and video calls, but there's little communities that become like chat rooms that you can join, and one of them is my Let's Read community. And yes, hopefully, like, once you've created your account, or, you know, it should continue to take you to joining my my Discord. But otherwise, once you've created an account, you can just click that invite, or maybe one of the mods could link that in there. Kashi says, Amir, does Joel sound extra yummy today? Oh yeah, I've lathered myself in those Canadian maple syrup dollars that you've showered me in, so I couldn't imagine myself being anything but tasty. Oh, Gothic Rose, GM Danielson emailed you today to record a story for him. You're fangirling right now. Yeah, GM Danielson's really good. I like his voice and his persona and like the general stories that he reads. Anthony D says, I farted, can anyone smell it? I can't currently, but I'm sick, so that might have something to do with that. Let me know if anybody else smells that fart that Anthony just let out. Was it loud? Well, guys, we're about 20 minutes in. That's usually about the time in which we begin delving into the spooky tales. accompanying the sounds, we're going to be transitioning away from Dolby sounding like a whole ass snack. Oh yeah. Thank you. I sound like a Ritz cracker. Anyways, we'll be listening to some Iron Cthulhu Apocalypse, who's the awesome, fantastic dark ambient artist who does royalty-free dark ambient and has kind of supported my channel for, man, almost 2 years or more now, I imagine. But he's very prolific with what he puts out. This newest one, May 24th, is called When Dark Ambient Plesiosaurs Attack. But they all just kind of put you in the mood for spookiness. Oh yeah. Enjoying a snack here, a full course meal. Shoot. Thanks, guys. He attack and he brings snack. Well, yeah, I do kind of wonder if I had my... I'm like thinking in my head right now about... Because I kind of have my headset, and then on the right is actually a book light, which is kind of funny. It attaches to my headphones, and then the lavalier mic I'm using to stream. And whenever I move, it kind of like goes across my body, the cord. And every time I touch my cord, it sort of picks up a bit of a sound. And I'm wondering if I just switched to the other side of my body, if that... I can just do that right now, right? We can do... Alright, does that sound any different to you guys? No? Because it's on my left side of my head now. Alright guys, I'm gonna lube up my lips with some Aquifer. I wish I was sponsored by Aquifer, that would be hilarious. Imagine being sponsored by like a lip balm or something. Every time you touch your cord, why does that sound so dirty? My umbilical cord. I would love if everything was just straight up wireless. I could just feel so free. Free as a bird. I'm like a bird, I wanna read spooky stories. I'm an urban explorer. Urban exploration, or urbex, as we call it in the community, is the exploration of man-made structures, often abandoned or hidden from the general public. Generally speaking, photography has played a large role in its popularity, but historical documentation has also become a factor in recent years. As austerity has taken hold in the UK, urban decay has become much more prominent, with abandoned factories, amusement parks, and other such places becoming increasingly common across the country. To my knowledge, the term urban exploration was invented in the mid-90s by a... Oops, I squeaked. I had a squeak. Jackie of Another World with the $4 says, love your content and long-time lurker. Well, thank you, Jackie. We welcome all lurkers into the community. Anthony D. Your ovaries. What's happened to your ovaries? We need to know. Jacqueline, Write or Die with the $1 buckaroo. Thank you, Jacqueline, and welcome back. It's good to see all these familiar faces. Oh, screen is still skeleton. Thank you. Thank you. We're heading over to the Wendigo skeleton grass mound in the forest. And thank you again to Robin. He's linked below. He created these awesome this awesome animation that you see right now with the rain and Wendigo, and also edited and animated all the special effects and stuff that you see in the recent Alien 500k subscriber video. So if you are a creator who's looking for someone with a lot of talent for anything really, thumbnails, openings to videos, or just any sort of editing that you need, like Robin's, he is top shelf white boy right there, from the Norwegian location. Alright, to my knowledge, the term... Okay. To my knowledge, the term urban exploration was invented in the mid-90s by a Canadian guy by the name Jeff Chapman. But one particularly harrowing story tells of a French urban explorer by the name of Philibert Aspert. Oh, jeez. I legitimately don't know how to pronounce that name. I should have looked that up maybe before, but I didn't. So, Philibert, is that a name? Philibert? Ellie Abadas with the 2 says, I'm glad I made it to the live stream. I'm glad you made it too, Ellie. Thank you. Being here. Alright, so, Philibert. Hopefully this isn't loud. Trying to find pronunciations for stuff is always precarious. And then everything they have is like, that's one of my triggers. It's just like, whenever you see all these YouTube videos with how to pronounce it, but then it's just like read by a robot, and I'm like, who literally wasted so much of their life just to post something that's utterly worthless to anyone, even to themselves?
Philibert.
Oh, Philibert. Philibert.
Philibert.
Man, that's very French. Where am I from? I am from the northeast of the United States, in good old Pennsylvania.
Philibert.
Philibert. And that's gonna sound terrible when I eventually say it. Philibert. Come here, Philibert. Aspert. Alright, here we go. Philibert, and then the last name. Looking that up right now. Oh. Oh, shit. Oh boy. French. Alright, so I'm wasting a lot of time here. This nonsense, but Philibert. If I hate to like completely botch the first name and the actual right in the first story. Philibert Aspert. It's like all like aspart, which is like insulin aspart. Not. Let's see, French. Francois. Mortadest, you have not missed much other than me failing to pronounce this name. Is there anybody French here? I got any Frenchies in here? Anybody from Canada? Despair? You know, I'm just gonna make it up. That sound good to everyone? I'm just gonna lie. I'm gonna lie to everyone right now and say it's Philibert Aspert. Because, usually French don't pronounce the T's, and it looks like it says aspert. Asparagus. Philibert asparagus. But one particularly harrowing story tells of a French urban explorer by the name of Philibert Espert. The story goes that Monsieur Espert was a hospital porter in the 18th century who had heard rumors that there were riches to be found in the deep winding catacombs beneath Paris. Priceless jewels, golden medallions, and 100-year-old bottle of expensive spirits waited for those who were brave enough to search for them. Monsieur Espert packed a knapsack, bid his wife adieu, then wandered down into the catacombs in search of his fortune. His skeleton was discovered in the damp, dark tunnels just over 11 years later. Now, I'm not sure if I believe that story. There's always been a kind of glamour that came with the apparent dangers of urban exploration, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't find that attractive. But the story of the French explorer seems a little too far-fetched for me, not to mention that the risks involved these days are minimal. It's pretty much impossible to get lost, and an emergency mobile phone means that medical assistance is usually just minutes away. That being said, it doesn't mean you find some genuinely weird. Miss Molly, you're bored? Sorry. I feel that way. I know it's not about me, but sometimes you just feel kind of bored. It sounds like you need to go on a long adventure. Philibert. Fill in the bear. Fill in the bear. Just need a big old doink. Not to mention the person. That being said, it doesn't mean you find some genuinely weird or disturbing things while exploring. Not too long ago, myself and a friend of mine explored a place that actually made me question if I wanted to be involved. Oh yeah, who's keeping track of mistakes? I think we've had about 2 or 3 so far. And not too long ago, myself and a friend of mine explored a place that actually made me question if I wanted to involve myself in urbex anymore. Just out of Farnham? These places. There's all these places in Farnham. Oh, probably Farnham. Farnham sounds very British. Just out of Farnham, in a leafy rural place called Surrey in England, stands an old abandoned puppy mill. The building has been deserted since 82-year-old John Lowe was arrested for killing his former partner and her daughter with a high-powered shotgun. He had shot his wife, Christine Lee, at point-blank range with a shotgun, later telling police that he wanted to put her down. His daughter Lucy Lee made a call to the emergency services before courageously returning to the scene of the crime to face her killer one final time. The building has a sinister air about it before we even laid eyes on it, but when we'd actually seen the thing, the apprehension was palpable. It looked like a typical haunted house, all red brick and Victorian arches, like it was just waiting to be the cover art of the next Stephen King novel. We took a few pictures, nervously chuckling to each other as we made our way inside. The interior has almost completely Sorry. Also, sorry if I bang that mic around, because I've got it in a weird spot now, and whenever I pull back, it kind of clunks and clanks. Clunks and clanks. Building has a sinister air about it. The interior has been almost completely gutted. There wasn't a scrap of furniture to be seen, and almost all of the electrical fittings had been torn out to prevent accidental fires. The glass windows of the conservatory attached to the house had smashed wholesale. The glass windows of the conservatory attached to the house had smashed wholesale. Not a single pane of glass had survived some previous visit from local vandals. It only added to the eerie feeling of the place, like some terrible vengeance had been wrought by angry locals, trying to destroy a place that was haunted by so many terrible events. My friend and I separated as I ventured upstairs while he remained on the ground floor, searching the kitchen. The upstairs bedrooms were still carpeted, but leaks in the roof meant that larger patches of black mold were growing on the walls and floors. The place reeked of rot. Yet, just as I was headed back downstairs, I heard my friend call out for me to join him in the kitchen. And all the time I'd known him, I'd never ever known him to sound too scared. My initial thought was that we'd been joined by some police who'd received reports of us exploring the murder scene. The empty alcohol containers on the first floor told me that this place was probably the haunt of drug users and criminals. All it would take was a simple explanation, maybe with us walking away with cautions. As I entered the kitchen, there were no signs of police, just a friend staring wide-eyed at one of the white-painted walls. When I asked him what was wrong, he just toined. When I asked him what was wrong, he just pointed at the spot on the wall he was staring at, saying a word. There on the wall was a small, jagged hole in the masonry, framed by some dark, muddy stain. It only took me a moment to realize just what I was looking at. It was a hole made by the shot that killed Kristen Lee. Must have been. The muddy stain around the ragged opening must have been her blood. I peered closer, recoiling in revulsion as I saw something that clung to the jagged edges of the roughly cut hole. A few fibrous strands of something dark and glossy, matted together with the same muddy stain that marred the white-painted walls. It was hair. Human hair. In all my time taking part in urbex trips, I had never felt so utterly terrified. I'd been chased by the cops, punched by angry security guards, but I'd never felt like anything like this. The death was thick in the air. It was a horrible feeling just knowing that something so terrible had happened right where we stood. I've never believed in the ghosts or anything remotely paranormal, but there was absolutely no denying the feeling that came over us as we stared in horror at the hole. Oops. Alright, actually. I wonder if I can bring this down. That's a no for me, dog. It was a horrible feeling. It was haunting. It felt exactly... Okay. It was a horrible feeling. Happened right where we stood. I've never believed in ghosts or anything remotely paranormal. There's absolutely no denying the feeling that came over us as we stared in horror at that hole that fatal gunshot had made. It was haunting. The place felt haunted. It felt exactly as if we were transgressing on some kind of hallowed ground, disturbing the restless spirits that lingered in the place that had so horribly... that they had horror. It felt exactly as if we were transgressing on some kind of hallowed ground, disturbing the restless spirits that lingered in the place they had so horribly lost their lives. It felt wrong. I turned to my friend, giving him a look that said far, far more than words ever could. He just nodded before we quietly made our way out of the building, not once looking back as he walked back through the woods towards town. I'm still very active in the urbex community, although I did take a prolonged break from it after what I saw in the Low House down in Surrey. I now actively warn people against visiting former murder scenes, telling them that some places are better left undisturbed. Like I said, I'm not a believer in the supernatural, but that doesn't mean that some places aren't haunted. Not haunted by ghosts, but by the reality of just how cruel and heartless human beings can be toward... Shit. Sometimes when I'm reading, I just like choke on my own spit. Sounds kind of gross, but it just ruins the take. Not haunted by ghosts, but by the reality of just how cruel and heartless human beings can be toward each other, even by people they love. That's pretty messed up. I wonder when that happened that there's still like a stain of grossness there. Anyone else worried Joel's gonna get some crazy fan stalker? That's alright. I dare him to come near me. I got a present for them when they arrive. Just kidding. I think if I had time to communicate with this said stalker, I think we could come to a certain agreement. Perhaps we could work through their borderline insanities. Your panties are haunted because no one's been there in years. Same here. The Haunted Panties by Vincent van Veenekeva. About 13 years ago, a few buddies and I were really into urbex. We didn't call it that back then. We weren't part of any sort of community, nor were we into taking photographs of places we visited. We'd find some old apocalyptic-looking derelict on a Friday or Saturday night, get some beers and some smokes, then spend the night getting wasted and fantasizing about zombie shit. Then spend the night getting wasted and fantasizing about zombie survival scenarios. I've pretty much settled down now. I'm in a long-term relationship and we're even talking about having kids. I doubt my girlfriend would be too keen on me exploring old abandoned buildings, but that's not exactly why I don't urbex anymore. The reason I stopped is because of what we say at the Danvers State Medical Hospital, shortly before it was demolished back in 2007. So, there's this movie that came out in 2001 called Session 9. We saw it in the movie theater near Boston Common and were instantly obsessed. Sure, it's a good movie, but the star isn't really David Caruso. The real star is Danvers State Medical Hospital. Location scouts must have giggled like schoolgirls when they laid eyes on Danvers. It looks more like Hogwarts than a place where some of Massachusetts' most deranged mental patients were housed. The huge Gothic building was built in 1874, and it quite, I think they forgot to write it was quite the sight to behold. Mornades, do you have some urbex stories you'd want to send in? Yeah, this is actually volume 2 of urbex stuff, so if anybody has urbex or urban exploration stories, oh show, send them in. Nah, I mean, okay. Where was I? Location scouts must have giggled like schoolgirls when they laid eyes on Danvers. It looks more like Hogwarts than a place where some of Massachusetts' most dangerous mental patients were housed. The huge Gothic building was built in 1874, and it was quite the sight to behold. Seriously, Google it and you'll see for yourself. But in the early 90s, it was abandoned when all remaining patients were transferred to other sites. Once we learned that the magnificent... He found a gun holster while doing urbex. That's pretty cool. Hang on to it and fill it with a pistol. Once we learned that the magnificent... Dude, I can't say that word. Magnificent. Once we learned that the magnificent-looking building was only 13 minutes north of Boston, we were already making plans to visit for a little midnight drinking session. One Friday night, we make the drive up there. parking our buddy's car about a mile away before walking over to the abandoned hospital. We may or may not have committed criminal damage in breaking through the flimsy perimeter fencing. I'd rather not say anything too incriminating. I don't want to get arrested over some dumb Reddit post, but once we were inside, it's as incredible as we imagined. The place didn't feel like it had ever been a hospital. We picture hospitals these days as being these white-on-steel, sterile places, but Danvers really did feel like it was straight out of the Harry Potter movie. Intricate patterns on the tiled floor, grand staircases, more like an old mansion than a treatment center. We're still in awe when we decide to make our way up on one of the staircases to explore the upper floors, wandering down long, dark corridors with the only light being from cheap plastic flashlights we were carrying. One such corridor had lots and lots of smaller rooms running off of it. It was clearly some kind of high security wing. The rooms looked more like prison cells than hospital rooms. There were even rusted iron shackles and... whoops. Braden Royce says, you heard a fox scream while having a smoke and thought we were going to have a story for you guys. Oh yeah. Foxes do have some pretty insane screams. It's pretty funny. And they always sound like they're about to die. One such corridor had lots and lots of smaller rooms running off of it. It was clearly some kind of high security wing. The rooms looked more like prison cells than hospital rooms. There were even rusted iron shackles still attached to some of the walls. Evidently, some prisoners were restrained when they became too violent. But when I shined my flashlight into another one of the smaller cell-like rooms, I froze. Caught in my torch beam was the dull steel of a steak knife. I can still remember how its teeth glittered in the bright white light. Next to it, a rather dirty-looking sleeping bag lay on the cold tiled floor. Someone was here with us. I can't remember who said it, but one of my buddies muttered something about us not being alone here. And when a strange voice spoke through the darkness, I think all of us just jumped out of our skin. Hi. That's all it said. At first, anyway. There's a young, dirty, homeless-looking guy walking down the corridor towards us. Hands up. Oops. We found a man. There's a young, dirty, homeless guy walking down the corridor towards us. Hands up and palms out. I can't remember the exact exchange. My adrenaline was pumping the entire time, but try to paraphrase. Oh, we were just about to leave, dude. We don't want any trouble. Ah, it's all good, he replied. Something friendly in his voice set me at ease. I really didn't mean to scare you guys. It's cool, kind of a scary place anyway. He separated from what I assumed was his steak knife, but I still kept my eyes on where it was sat in the darkness, making sure he won't be able to grab it if he decides he doesn't like us so much. But, as I said, he was actually pretty friendly for a guy who seemed to be living in an abandoned insane asylum. We gave him a beer, a kind of peace offering, then spent about a half an hour just wandering the corridors and talking. None of us wanted to press him on why he was there. He seemed nice enough, so we passed the time talking about Boston, complaining about the socks, that sort of thing. After a while, he does in fact tell us some of his story. How he's been a drifter for a while. Not exactly homeless, but not exactly the 9-to-5 kind of dude either. He liked to explore weird old places too, so that was like another half hour listening to all the awesome abandoned places he'd visited across America. He'd even been to Bodie, California, which has like this legendary status among urbex enthusiasts because it's an entire mining town that was abandoned after the gold rush or something. So, about the point that we're thinking this is one of the coolest guys we've ever met, he asks us something that, at first, we thought was some kind of joke. So, you guys are human, right? One of my buddies actually laughed, but the guy shot him this look. Man. What? Shot him this look, man, if looks could kill. Shot him this look. Man, if... Oh, okay. I feel like that needs to be a separate sentence, but it's all good. One of my buddies actually laughed, but the guy shot him this look. Man, if looks could kill. He was serious, and the more it dawned on us that he was 100% serious, the more freaked out we became. I just, hate meeting cool people than finding out they're reptilians, you know? You can only really tell once you peel that fake layer of skin off, and that's what the knife is for. He'd seen my eyes flicking towards it. Don't look so nervous, dude. You guys seem cool, but sometimes it's real tiring. They've been after me for so long now, and they never ever stop. Sometimes I think I should just kill everyone just to be safe. An uncomfortable silence came over us. I wanted to run from this crazy monster, but that might anger him. And we really didn't want to anger him. Dang, dude, we're almost out of beer, one of my buddies says. Here, man, why don't you take our last one? We'll go buy some more and be back in like an hour. Again, probably not word for word, but I'll never forget the relief I felt when he said those words. It was a stroke of absolute genius to be able to get us out of there so quickly, without raising too much suspicion in the guy. The homeless-looking crazy person seemed very happy at this, like he'd made himself a trio of new friends, guys he could finally trust. And as we walked out of Danvers and back towards the car, I felt a new... Sorry. Black Bigot with the $2 says horror stories is way better. I don't know who horse is that, a person or is that just a general thing? Because these are supposed to be scary. It may have been he may have had an interaction with Mark Zuckerberg and that's why he was scared of these reptilians. And as we walked out of Danvers and back towards the car, I felt a new, fresh feeling. Guilt. Wonder why he felt guilty. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong. Also, speaking of reptilians, there is this one movie with, let's just see it, actually. So, first I'm going to look up the girl from Alien Ripley. Sigourney Weaver. So, Sigourney Weaver, reptilian. She's not the reptilian, but she was in a movie. Raqqa. Yeah, it's called Raqqa. And I believe the whole thing is on YouTube. It's about 21 minutes long, 22 minutes long, by Oats Studios. And holy crap, that, I mean, it's kind of like a pilot of sorts, but Sigourney Weaver was in it. And holy crap, if you guys have not seen Raqqa, it is an amazing, amazing short film that is just like, it's like literally like living in a nightmare, but with I believe it's based around reptilians, because I mean, I've, after researching a lot of just like funny conspiracy things, like you kind of see like the patterns that are associated with certain conspiracies. The reptilians, like at least how they're described amidst certain communities, definitely fit the inspiration for this short film Raqqa. And dude, the special effects in it for being like an independent film were like some of the most top-notch I've seen in a while. Like definitely beats many of the episodes from Black Mirror, and it's just overall quality. So it's spelled Rakka, Raqqa, and by Oats Studios, like Hall & Oates. But yeah, it's got Sigourney Weaver in it, and it's, if you guys get time after the stream, of course. No, I'm just kidding. Whenever you want to watch it, it's pretty baller. And I'm kind of sad that it didn't get made into like a full-on movie type thing. It's scary though, because actually I won't ruin it. If you guys do see it, I want to talk about it because it's amazing. I don't think I've known anybody else that's really like just stumbled across it. I could even share it on my Twitter at some point here. Kylie Granger says, my mom is obsessed with conspiracy theorists and the reptilian thing is one of them. If you look up videos, you can see their eyes change. I don't really believe it, but my mom bets her life on it. You know, it is tough. I've seen, you know, like it's kind of become like a meme. Like there's so many videos on YouTube where it's like examples of people like demonstrating the reptilianness or whatever based on you know, based on some sort of video that has like sort of strange artifact occurring in it where it makes them look as if though they're changing of sorts, but really it's just kind of like a glitch in the camera. That's not to say that, like, I mean, the world, existence is a very weird place, and if for whatever reason there's reptile people that have come to Earth and are able to you know, shapeshift or influence people here on Earth in the same fashion of like alien greys and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, you know what I mean? I mean, I'm, as you can tell from my channel, I'm into all things strange, so if anybody's had any experiences with the reptilians, be sure to send your story to reddit.com r/Let's Read Official. It's on the screen. But anyways, I mean the universe is a big place. Who knows what other creatures are out there? Yeah, the royal family are baby-eating reptiles for sure. Maybe one day it'll all come out. Did anyone see Hillary Clinton laying eggs in a glass of water during a speech she gave? I saw that video. Reptilians confirmed. Probably the most convincing evidence I've seen. I'd like to have one of those eggs. I'll be like Daenerys, the Dragon King of YouTube. Hillary's offspring. I'm an urban explorer from Scotland over in the UK, and I've been involved in the urbex community for coming up on 15 years. I've probably explored more than 500 abandoned places over the years, and at least 99% of them are exactly what you'd expect. Rundown houses, factories, and hospitals. Creepy enough to make for amazing photography, but nothing remotely sinister about them. Honestly, the number one feeling you get from urbex is kind of sadness, especially when the site in question is an old Gothic building that's more deserving of investment and not demolition. I've been to pretty much every stereotypically creepy place you can imagine. Old Victorian hospitals, haunted stately homes in the middle of nowhere, several morgues and operating theaters, abandoned graveyards, creepy basements and tunnels, you name it, and I've explored it. But one place was different from all the others. Out of all the places I've explored, only one genuinely scared me. A bit of background information. We absolutely adore finding new places, but it's not exactly easy. It takes a lot of research, and we get most of our locations from Google Maps, news articles, land registries, and the obvious shares from other members of the urbex set. So often, unless someone has left kind of urbex review, we don't know what a place will be like before we turn up, and sometimes they're sealed, empty or demolished, and sometimes I wish this place has been like... Oops. Usroda. When they say Miley Cyrus eyes go reptilian and Shane Dawson made videos about reptilians, that's funny. I trust Shane. He knows what's going on. I actually, just a bit of an aside, I had done, I wouldn't necessarily call it, I wouldn't call it urban exploration, but I went caving in a place that's near here. It's like in an old junkyard, quarry type thing, and it's along a cliffside. There's a, one of those like sort of plastic pipes that go into the mountain. I'm not sure what they used it for in the past, if they were just like mining, but for whatever reason the pipes go directly into the side of the cliff. And then once you kind of have to like slide into them, because you certainly can't walk. You can maybe crawl if you're small, but so you slide in, and then once we were in there, it's just completely pitch black. And holy cow, like caving is a scary, scary thing, because very seldom do you come across a cave that is just a big open cavern. Like a lot of it is like winding tunnels, that are claustrophobic and small, like areas that you squeeze through, and all sorts of like really, really freaky things, like where you're like, you haven't even been walking for, exploring for 5 minutes, and you look back and you see all the different splintering directions that you could go, and you're like, I have no idea how to get back. And I was fortunate to go with people at least 3 different times that knew exactly how to go there, and even after my 3rd time, I can honestly say there was only a few different things that actually looked familiar to me. So if you do go caving, be sure to go with people that are familiar with where you're going, because I can definitely see why a lot of people end up hurt or something like that. And bring a headlamp and water, and it's actually the kind of a liberating feeling once you make it out of a cave, if you're crawling through, because all of a sudden it's just like the sky becomes huge and you feel free. You can breathe again, because it's kind of like most of the caves are just filled with a bunch of dust. But it is weird, because when we were in that cave, we came across this one sort of open cathedral-esque room that it was almost like being inside of like maybe a shell or something like that. And along the walls there was just like hundreds and hundreds of like little white candles that people have come and put there over time. Those like really, really dirt cheap ones that you get for like in bundles. And it's just curious like what people would even put all that stuff there for, but definitely a lot of funny spray paint and graffiti and some strange like sort of satanic symbols and that kind of thing. But yeah, it was, I don't know if I'd ever do it again after the times I've gone, but it certainly was interesting at the time. I remember on some of the walls they had was just like made of like straight clay, and you could like actually like pull the clay off of the wall and make it into something. So of course we made a penis, and that was pretty funny. Jensen says, I'm actually at a party right now making everyone watch the live stream on the big screen while everyone winds down. That's hilarious. Welcome everybody at the party. I hope you've had a nice winding down. And Jen says, when did you see the story where the guy went caving and ended up getting stuck in a crack face down, ended up dead from blood going to his head after 30 hours? Yeah, there is a lot of ways to get yourself into trouble while caving, and I remember there was this one aspect of the cave called like Judy's Frustration or something like that, and basically it's only like 12 feet, but you have to like crawl on your back, and just sort of inch your way as you just sort of inch your way through about a narrow 1 to 2 foot area. And it just sucks, because it's like if you don't have any sort of absolute leverage available to you, there could be many possibilities in which people just get completely stuck, and it's like, cool, this has now become my tomb, I can't wait, But oh yeah, Ben McDaniel went missing while underwater cave exploration. Yeah, there's some Reddit always posts that one picture where it shows like someone in like a cave diving area where it's like a sign like advising people not to go this direction because and it's like a picture of the Grim Reaper and stuff. Just because that would be the worst. Like, imagine not only are you trapped in a certain cave area and some claustrophobic thing as you're trying to climb through with low visibility, but you also are running out of oxygen from your freaking swimming, gear and all that kind of stuff. That would be a nightmare come true. In fact, that honestly, I could see a horror video game being kind of made about cave diving and that kind of thing. And also, I've talked up the game The Forest quite a bit. It includes all of the terrifying aspects of caving and being out on an abandoned, peninsula in the northern Canada. But one of the cool parts of the game is eventually, if you find it, you get one of those rebreathers that allows you to go to other areas that are inaccessible other than being able to swim through them. And The Forest is a very scary game if you've never tried it. It's also one of the most interesting stories and just games in general I've ever seen. I was talking it up quite a bit on voice chat, yesterday. Anyways, we'll get back to reading. A bit of background information. We absolutely adore finding new places, but it's not exactly easy. It takes a lot of research, and we get most of our locations from Google Maps, news articles, land registries, and the obvious shares from other members of the Urbex set. So often, unless someone has left kind of an Urbex review, we don't know what place... We don't know what a place will be like before we turn up. Sometimes they're sealed, empty, or demolished, and sometimes I wish this place had been like any of those. We would have turned up, found the place inaccessible, and simply gone home or found a pub to drink our disappointment away. A lot of the time, my Urbex pals and I will organize a kind of day trip, something to look forward to and bring relief from the stresses of our boring or stressful jobs. We'll go about visiting a certain town or city that has a few potential Urbex sites, and then exploring them all throughout the course of a day. We get a hotel, find a few nice places to eat, but it also helps to socialize with the locals a wee bit. After a few pints, even the most hard-hearted of people will spill the beans on derelict buildings in the area. This one place was the last abandoned building on the trip. It was getting dark and rainy, as it often does in rural Scotland, but we decided to push on and get a few photos before sundown. We had kind of a long drive to get to the hotel, so we couldn't just put it off until the following day. At first, it didn't seem abandoned, just a church in the middle of a very well-kept cemetery. My friend assured me that from his research it definitely wasn't in use, and I was pretty keen to get inside because abandoned churches can make beautiful photos. Only by this point, we were losing daylight at a rapid rate. We'd have to get in there if we wanted to make use of the last of the natural light. iPhone camera flashes just to make sure. Whoops. Allison says you live in the middle of the woods, and my friend and his cousin say I live in Final Destination. I don't remember. Oh, I guess, was there a guy in Final Destination that lived in the woods? I'm not really sure. All I remember mostly is that time where all that wood fell off the truck and just decapitated that person through their car. And then that one time the person survived getting too much nitrous oxide at the dentist, and then walked outside and was crushed by something falling from a crane, which was pretty scary for me to watch when I was a kid. iPhone camera flashes just don't make for good photos. Only natural light produces the kind of results that get noticed on photography forums. The rotten back door to the church was wide open, old paint peeling in patches from the splintering wood. It was hardly the most inviting entrance, but the only visible way of getting into the building. One by one, making sure there was no one around to report us for trespassing, we made our way inside. Now, side note, a lot of urbex enthusiasts talk a good game about climbing into places, through open or broken windows, onto roofs to find service hatches and all that. I can categorically say that climbing an abandoned site is definitely not a good idea. From experience, the fastest way to the emergency room is trying to climb something that is literally falling apart. Inside, we came to what appeared to be a small kitchen. I'm not remotely religious, so it did kind of surprise me that whoever the priest was actually used to live in the church too. That kind of dedication to something so intangible is just beyond me, but I suppose that's why they call it faith. The kitchen naturally led onto a small corridor before opening up into the main church hall. That was the last time we spoke for a long time. There were beautiful color-stained glass windows, albeit a little grimy from the abandonment, but that's not what drew our eyes. A distinctly uneasy feeling overtook us as we saw just what was laid out in the hall before us. I, for one, was completely lost of words, while one of my friends went deathly pale, as if he'd seen an actual ghost in that old church. Instead of the standard empty pews and religious iconography, the interior of the church was filled with children's toys. They were stuffed neatly and uniformly into every pew, all facing the same way, forever listening to some silent sermon. All of the children's toys and dolls were worn and filthy, in a creepy kind of style that kids' toys haven't been made since like the 70s or 80s. There were little ornate prams, that's strollers for Yanks, and matchback cars all facing the same way, towards the empty priest's podium. It dawned on me that since there were no toys there, whoever had arranged them this way had stood at the podium and admired their handiwork. There was also a kind of bedroom area, one bed having been clearly made up for a child and surrounded by children's books. No adult-sized beds, a single one, so I don't think it was anything like a homeless family squatting there. How long they had been there was anyone's guess, but one thing was clear. Whatever the reason these toys were arranged like this, it was not a good or pure one. We left the place, still in silence, too creeped out to discuss the scene as we drove back to the hotel we were staying at. Mood of the day. Sorry, I just feel like my mic is asymmetrical. I've got like an OCD when it comes to like making sure that this is lined up because I'm afraid that more of the sound will come from one of the stereos than the other. Anyways, Miss Bellatrixa with the 5 Aussie bucks says, I stayed in the middle of bush at a friend's house. Middle of the bush. At a friend's house, and when I went out for a smoke in the middle of the night, I was surrounded by so many kangaroos. That's hilarious. Kangaroos are cute, but thank you, Miss Bellatrix, for the 5. I'd be curious if kangaroos are hostile or not. I don't know. It's interesting that they get so close to people because, in the United States, we're more accustomed to sort of deer and elk and that kind of thing, and they tend to avoid humans at all cost. Probably because we shoot them. Is Joel still melting butter? Oh yeah. Making my butter wine in my toes right now. Saw a donkey in Tijuana, Mexico, painted as a zebra. That's great. Poor guy, though, covered in paint. It's kind of like in Red Dead. I remember that's what they did in Red Dead Redemption 2. One of the missions, they had to like get a zebra, and it was actually just a horse. Painted. We left the place, still in silence, too creeped out to discuss the scene as we drove back to the hotel we were staying at. The mood of the whole day had changed in mere moments. It was still too raw to try to make sense of the things we had just seen. Despite our outward appearances, the place was collapsing inside. A huge hole in the floor had formed, and damp was setting in, so any evidence of the toys, the bed, and the sinister atmosphere may well be lost or buried soon. I don't know if anyone else had discovered this place or knows what happened, but it's not somewhere I'll ever return to. I refuse to share the location even with my closest explorer friends for fear, if that they visit, they'll run into whoever had arranged those toys to such a ghostly congregation. Horses with stripes. Donkey. Zebra. A mare mule. I think it'd be cool to have a donkey as a pet or some sort of mule. Maybe not. Definitely a horse. Take my horse to the hotel lobby. Miss Bellatrix with a 5 says, if they are wild, they are not cute and get pretty mad if you go near them. That stinks. I remember hearing about koalas, that they're like the meanest little jerkazoids ever. And I remember someone on Reddit like gave a very detailed description of how everything about them is just terrible. Where even like their brain is essentially primarily smooth, which just indicates that they're not only incredibly poorly adapt to sort of evolved, I guess, or whatever, but they're essentially just utterly retarded. Which I thought was funny. Vix is sporting a jacket right now. That's what I like to hear. Gothic Rose, 600 subs, more to 500. I'm so glad this... Yeah, guys. Subscribe to Gothic. Get her up there. Let's get her to 500. And also, let's get this viewers up to 500. Is that possible? YouTube Lords. Everybody likes the video. Maybe they'll show us benefit. I'm just a horse, of course. Koalas will give you VD. What is VD? Venereal disease? Koala. Oh. Oh wow, koalas will give you chlamydia. That's great to know. So never touch a koala. Miss Bellatrixa with the 2 says, yeah, they really are, and they sound like demons. Yeah. No thanks. Strange, everything in Australia just sounds as dangerous. Emily, that's how old I am. I will be 29 in June. Well, holy crap, I'll be 29 and let's check this, I believe. If it's May 25th, I'll be 29 in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days. Wow. Wow. The Classy A Penguin. I have said your name. You are blessed, my child. Wow. Alright, so that was story 3. This is story 4. After this one, I probably will have to go urinate. Could bring you guys with me, but I don't know if that's ASMR for everybody. I am old. Old as some of these abandoned buildings we're exploring. My panties are haunted. Yeah, a live stream party would be sweet. What day does the June 4th fall? It's a Tuesday. So maybe I'll be recording my Wednesday video for that time. Bred tough down under. Down under. I've seen a few scary urbex posts on this subreddit over the past couple of days. There have been some amazing stories, but they've reminded me of my own terrifying experience that I haven't actually thought about in some time. I've never really told anyone this story, but now I feel like this is the right time. I mean, I am pretty much anonymous here, and it really has been years since this whole thing went down. I live in Liverpool over in the UK, the place where the Beatles came from. It's a beautiful city with a rich cultural history, but beneath the old Victorian streets there are old mysteries that have never been solved. Dark secrets that pass from the world along with the dead men who kept them. Let me tell you the story of when a friend and I explored the Williamson Tunnels. The Williamson Tunnels are a bunch of massive subterranean excavations in the Edge Hill area of Liverpool, which were created under the direction of a tobacco merchant, landowner, and philanthropist. Suffering succotash as a philanthropist. All the thirst. Age is just a number, baby. Philanthropist. Alright. The Williamson Tunnels are a bunch of massive subterranean evacuations, dang. The Williamson Tunnels are a bunch of massive subterranean excavations in the Edge Hill area of Liverpool, which were created under the direction of a tobacco merchant, landowner, and philanthropist Joseph Williamson between the early 19th century. Although generally described as tunnels, the majority of the complex is comprised of brick or stone vaulting. Essentially, a series of interlocking rooms have been carved out from the rock underneath the city. The purpose of the works remain unclear, although quarrying a philanthropic desire to provide employment and Williamson's own eccentric interests have all been suggested. Now, this all seems pretty harmless, just some rich old guy providing jobs for the local people. But when a local journalist by the name of Stonehouse became suspicious of Williamson's motives, he went about researching the true purpose of the tunnel network. On hearing that Stonehouse planned to publish his research on Williamson's excavations, Williamson's friends, the artist Cornelius Henderson, threatened to sue Stonehouse both for libel and trespass, leading to his journalism being suppressed for many, many years. Eventually, the British Army got involved and a mandatory survey of the tunnel system was ordered. Yet despite the massive amount of work that went into the surveying, Army engineers simply did not have the manpower to cover all the grounds. Larger excavations, such as the vaulted Great Tunnel, have yet to be located. Still, so is a question. I should ask it as such. Still think the whole thing is harmless? No, neither did we. So it came to pass that myself and a friend of mine, we'll call him Chris, began to plan a clandestine exploration of the Williamson Tunnels, namely the parts that hadn't already been explored. We stocked up on a few snacks, 2 flashlights, each along with a lot of batteries. There was no way either of us was getting caught short in some dark underground tunnels. That would be like the start of a bad horror movie or something. Some warm clothes, 1 first aid kit between us, and we were set. I gotta say, it was incredibly exciting, planning a little expedition like that, knowing we'd be venturing into places that no one had stepped foot in for almost 200 years. We joked about finding a huge stash of treasure, Spanish gold and silver doubloons, but I think I half believe me might. We joked about finding a huge stash of treasure, Spanish gold and silver doubloons, but I think I half believed we might. Why else would a man dig so deep into the earth unless he had something really worth hiding? The whole real way to get inside the tunnels is to use the official visitor's entrance. The plan was to get inside, look like a pair of well-meaning tourists, then hide out somewhere until closing time when we would have the place to ourselves, Simple, but effective nonetheless. Naturally, it worked. We found some dark corner as far deep as we could manage without cutting away at the chain-link security fencing that kept us from the deeper recesses. After 5 p.m., a solitary... Hey, Blue Note 14 with a huge 35 buckaroo says, I didn't realize our birthdays were so close. Well, here's an early birthday gift, man. Hope you have a great birthday. You truly deserve. Well, thank you, Blue Note. I hope you have a nice birthday as well. Thank you so much. Early birthday gifts, jeez. We'll have to celebrate We'll have to celebrate together. When is your B-day? Mornides, you said that's exactly how you got into the tunnels. You waited it out, huh? That's interesting. I don't know if I would be brave enough to do that. Honestly, I don't know if I'd be brave enough just to go into those tunnels at all, to be honest. I mean, shit. What's scarier than ticks? Bot flies larvae. Yeah, no, that's... I've been fortunate enough to not have to experience the bot fly. I'm not exactly sure where those are located. Luna, oh, yours is June 2nd. Nice, that's awesome. You've got 8 days to go. Are you doing... is anybody doing anything fun for their birthday? Mornidest is keeping track of the swears, but so is YouTube. Why else would a man dig so? The only real way to get inside the tunnels is to use official visitor's entrance. Naturally, okay. Naturally, it worked. We found some dark corners far deep as we could manage without cutting away at the chain-link security fencing that kept us from the deeper recesses. After 5 p.m., a solitary security guard made one final sweep of the public areas with his flashlight, turned off the main power, and then went home for the evening. Maybe it was a bit early to be high-fiving each other, but we were still pretty ecstatic that the first phase of our plan had gone off without a hitch. The next phase involved finding a way around the previous mentioned chain-link fences that had been erected to keep tour groups from venturing into restricted, supposedly dangerous areas. With a little help from a pair of pliers my friend had borrowed from his dad's toolbox, we were in. We got out our flashlights and began to wander deeper and deeper into the unknown. It didn't take long until we were hopelessly lost inside an unending series of pitch-black rooms. I had assumed that there would be some sort of order to the layout, but each adjacent room seemed to take us deeper into what had to be a huge labyrinth underneath the streets of Liverpool. The deeper we got, the more debris covered the floors, chunks of hewn limestone that we began to stumble over as we pushed on. I noticed that my ears were popping just in time to hear my friend let out a yelp as he slipped among the rubble and crashed into the rocks beneath him. He looked bad. I rushed over to him, struggling to find stable footholds among the rocks, and was incredibly relieved to discover that all he had were a few cuts and grazes. I don't know quite why I did this at the time. Maybe it was because I knew from the look on his face that he had had enough. But I left him for a few moments to go see if there were if there were any treasures. Okay. But I left him for a few moments to go see if there was any of that treasure stashed away. Gosh. I don't know why I did this at the time. Maybe it was because I knew from the look on his face that he had had enough. But I left him for a few moments to go see if there was any of that treasure Tongue twisty. Twisty my tongue, will ya? If these stories get spookier, I'm going to fill my diaper. Jensen, if you're gonna do that, make sure you film it, and then we will or you could live stream that. That would be good. Live streaming my next accident. Okay. I don't quite know why I did this at the time. Maybe it was because I knew from the look on his face that he had had enough. But I left him for a few moments to go see if there was any of that treasure stashed away in the rooms ahead of us. Of course, he wasn't there when I got back. Of course, the room he was sat in was empty. No sign of him anywhere. God, I'm fudging up, bros. But of course, he wasn't there when I got back. Of course, the room he was sat in was empty. No sign of him anywhere. I was kicking myself. He'd obviously gotten annoyed that I'd left him alone and was now marching back on his own, bleeding and tired. I tried to find him, getting back as fast as I could to catch up with him, yet there was no sign of my friend at all. No torchlight in the darkness, no one responding when I called out his name. It was about at this point that I started getting pretty freaked out. Either he was playing a bad joke on me, or there was something terribly wrong. Then, from the rooms behind me, I heard footsteps. Not walking pace, not at all. These feet were sprinting, hurtling through the rooms towards me in the darkness. I wheeled around and I wheeled around and shined my flashlight, relieved beyond belief to see my missing friend. But his face, seen a look of terror so etched into someone's features. He didn't have his torch or his backpack, and he almost crashed into me as he sprinted through the tunnels. He just whimpered one single word as he ran. Run. This day, he's never talked about what he saw down there that made him run like that. He started drinking a lot, and getting up late and getting drunk all night. It wasn't long before we drifted apart and he ended up moving down to Portsmouth, way down in the south of England. He was never quite the same after it, but it doesn't mean I haven't stopped wondering, and one day, maybe over a few drinks, I'll ask him. But it's not asking him that I'm afraid of. It's what he might tell me that really scares me. Crap, I banged on my mic as I... it's hot in my room. I'm melting into a pile of shit. Class 8 Penguin says, Yo, Let's Read, do you remember the story I submitted when a creepy dude broke into the clothes plant where my mom worked and cut the power? That dude wore a purge mask. I think I vaguely remember that story, actually. Purge mask, yeah, those masks are scary. It's what he might tell me that really scares me. Okay, I just wanted to get another attempt at that because I banged my headset on the microphone. Alright guys, I'm going to take a quick pee-pee, as they say in adult circles of social interaction, and I will be back in no time. Rest in peace, let's read. He went to take a pee and never came back. Good news is, though, is that I brought back my cat. And now he will start doing things that are mildly annoying. Such as wanting attention, but that's not too bad. I want attention, too. Edgar Maltese. It's a high demand. 2 shakes. Alright. I was actually back in just 1 shake, so we're good to go. We got 3 more stories to go. We were over the hump. Humpity humps. My lovely lady lumps, and we're gonna rock and or roll. You gotta turn your speakers up to max, and you would have heard my microphone picking up my tinkle. There may have been a little bit of a fart in there too that you may have heard. I really hope that you did hear it, so you could, you know, that's the kind of ASMR that only the greatest lords speak of. One ASMR to end them all. My fart. Last Day Penguin says, do you have a legit question? Do you enjoy true crime? Do I enjoy committing true crimes? Yes. Ew. But no, I know what you mean. You know, I don't watch it too much, but I really think that might be the direction I go down with, I really think that might be the direction I go down with the whole, mini documentaries that I want to do on the channel. I don't know. I mean, it would be cool. I think my voice definitely fits that genre. WWE, WWE, WWE. Do you like WWE? I like the idea of it. I've always found it to be amazingly cool. Maybe that's what I should go down. The road of WWE. Could be the first reader, or first wrestler who only wrestles with his voice. Get pinned right now. Get on with the storytelling. This says Edgar. Edgar, I'm doing my best, man. Sometimes I just need a little bit of a pee break and a little bit of a talkie break. Do laxatives work? I think you should try them and find out. Number 5. When I was in university, I used to work the closing shift at a McDonald's here in the UK, which is without a doubt the weirdest shift to work. It happens to be the most consistently busy shift of the day, yet somehow it's invariably worked by incompetent teenagers who are somehow corralled by a manager who are barely out of their teens themselves. And before you go saying that's a mean thing to say, or that I should have more respect for hardworking young people, I think I've earned the right to say that, because I used to be one of... Oh, whoops. H.H. Holmes. Is that a murderer? Is that a truthful crime committer? I think I've earned the right to say it, because I used to be one of those previously mentioned incompetent teenagers. At about 11:30 each night when the closing shift ends, myself and a few of the guys who worked there used to go have a smoke at a nearby play park before going our separate ways. Only one night in particular, one of the guys has the idea to drive over to the grounds of an abandoned psychiatric hospital, have our smokes there. Granted, it didn't seem like the best idea at the time. but the guy was offering to drive us there and back, and even said that he'd had a few beers in the cooler tucked away in his car. Trust me, if you finish a late shift at McDonald's, thinking of grease and sick to the back... Wait, what? Stinking of grease and sick to the back teeth of rude Oh, I've never heard that saying before. Sick to the back teeth. I'm sick to the back teeth with ya. Nursing horror stories would be good. And trust me, if you finish a late shift at McDonald's, stinking of grease and sick to the back teeth of rude customers, you jump at the offer of a free beer. My only question was where this place was exactly. He said it was only a few miles away, at a place called Whittingham. So, the grounds that Whittingham Hospital is built on are absolutely ginormous. There are about 4 or 5 different annexes constructed around a cricket pitch, a duck pond, and even a small train station built specifically for the purpose of receiving patients. I'm not actually from the area. I moved to attend the university in nearby Preston, so unlike the locals, I had no idea of the story behind Whittingham Hospital. One of the lads starts to tell it as we parked the car and began to walk over to the grounds. I think if he had told me before we'd left, I'd have been much less keen to accept the free beer. Basically, back in the 60s, the hospital was the subject of a huge controversy involving abusive staff and illegal medical testing. But whatever the truth was, it had been lost in the subsequent rumor mill as the local population embellished and exaggerated the story until it was something of an urban legend. People talked of haunted buildings, mass graves, and patients who refused to leave when the place was shut down in the 90s. With those thoughts rattling through our brains, we climbed the large stone wall that surrounded the complex and began to explore. Each time we would wander into one of the dusty old buildings, we would often find that the floors would give way or that they'd rotted away entirely. It was pretty dangerous, but the sense of adventure was palpable. Never done anything quite like it in my life. The sight of such magnificent buildings being left to crumble was sad, but exhilarating, knowing we had them to ourselves. There were long war awards. I thought it was words. Samantha, how do you not know that? Watch Kendall's Ray's video on H.H. Holmes. He was the first American serial killer. I did know a weird piece of trivia during the cruise that I went on when they asked, let's see, I'll ask you guys the piece of trivia and see if you know it. Wait, what? Wait, that's strange. Oh, wait, what the heck? Sorry. Let me try it again. Oh, okay, yeah. So, what serial killer, and don't look this up on the Googles, you have to know it yourself. What serial killer, real name, or, was better known as, well, what was he better known as, the real name of William Frederick Cody? Now, don't look it up or cheat, because that's cheating. And I will not be having cheaters in my chat room. But anyways, long story short, whenever they asked that question at trivia, I somehow just sort of subconsciously knew the answer and then said it, but even though I was completely unaware that that was the answer to the question, and it just kind of was like, wow, that really caught me off guard. So anyways, let me repeat it in case anyone didn't hear it. What is William Frederick Cody, a famous serial killer, better known as? I'm starting to see answers roll in here. But yes, it is the one Buffalo Bill, which was in Silence of the Lambs. And I don't know why, but like maybe it was because I've seen Silence of the Lambs maybe once or twice, and in it they're like, you know, they reference him or something like that. But for some reason it was just like buried in my subconscious, and I just knew that was the answer, but at the same time I was 0% sure that was the answer. It was so strange. Like, I guess that just means to me that you're supposed to trust your gut, you know? And sometimes Buffalo Bill is the answer to everything. Oh wait, Buffalo Bill was from Silence of the Lambs, so he wasn't like an actual person? Oh, I'm an idiot. He was not a real person. Okay. Well, still. Anyways. William Frederick Cody, Buffalo Billy. Okay, yeah. That's hilarious. I like to imagine he was real at one point and just had incredibly amazing skin suits he wore every day, and he kept it nice and lotioned up. He was the most lotioned individual. You know, honestly, after being out in the sun, my skin is incredibly dry. I'm gonna lotion up a little bit for Mr. Buffalo. I love David Spade when he gets captured by Buffalo Bill and Joe Dirt. It's like, all right, say it, don't spray it. I'm putting the lotion on my skin. He's like, now hold up your end of the bargain. And like, he's like, all right, and like sends down like some sort of like car magazine. It's just so funny, dude. Ed Gein wore the skins. Nice. Ed Gein. Edgar Allan Poe. Alright. Where was I? Made lampshades of the female skin? Jesus Christ. What is wrong with people? Like, what? I mean, I guess there's probably something wrong with people, and there might be an answer to it, like swelling on their brain or something like that. But quite literally, like, what kind of messed up shit do you have to go through as in your childhood to just like, you know, I have a lot of lamps around here, lamp shades, but none of them are made out of girl skin, you know? I feel like they would contrast the fluorescent light just so perfectly well. Maybe I'll just go kidnap somebody. When I was younger, I was a legitimate serial killer in regards to like actually eating so much cereal that the cereal community, Captain Crunch and the like, Boo Berry, had a all bulletin lookout for me. I'd come around, I'd just gobble them right up. But I remember I had an Apple Jacks box, and it was probably like 4th or 5th grade, but just over the course of that day, your family gets cereal, it's like the family cereal, but over the course of the day I ate the entire box of cereal and upset a few people. Okay, he was completely controlled and tormented by his mother, so he punished other women because of his trauma. Well, I guess if you guys don't want to create the next Buffalo Bill, make sure you're nice to your kids. Ted Levine, who played Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs, also played Detective Leland Stottlemyre in the TV show Monk. Yeah, he's definitely a goofy-looking fella. Oh my god, Ed Gein literally made belts out of women's nipples. How many nipples did you need? Come on, am I right, guys? Nipple belts probably weren't even that great. Just stick with good old pleather. I wonder if they sell that on... Did he sell them on Etsy, do you think? Okay, anyways. Each time we would wander into one of the dusty old buildings, we would often find that the floors would give way or that they'd rotted away entirely. It was pretty dangerous, but the sense of adventure was palpable. I'd never done anything quite like it in my life. The sight of such magnificent buildings being left to crumble was sad but exhilarating, knowing we had them to ourselves. There were long wards lined with damp, moldy beds housed inside huge Victorian buildings complete with towers. There was even an old church, which was just as creepy as you can imagine. I mean, it was like the perfect place to shoot a horror movie or something, and we relished the opportunity to scare the ever-living dookie out of each other. I remember this one place, an old operating room that we were exploring. One of my mates ventured into the middle of the room when we heard the rotten old floorboards creaking ominously beneath his feet, then watched in absolute horror as the ground beneath him gave way and he plummeted into the darkness below. It was honestly horrible to watch, but I can't even tell you how relieved we were to discover he'd gotten away with nothing but a few scrapes. The worst part was trying to get him out. It was absolutely filthy down there, and he reeked of rot when we finally pulled him out of that hole. But that wasn't the worst part, not for a long shot. We were exploring one of the larger buildings when we came to a locked door. By this point, the other guys had done a fair bit of climbing and crawling to allow us entry into each of the buildings, and it was my turn to pitch in. So, after crawling through a small, jagged hole in the wall, I got to the door opening and we all went inside. It was a huge mansion-style building with those stairs that are split at the bottom and curve round to join together at the top. We used our phone torches to cut through the pitch blackness as we ascended, following a long, dark corridor until it became clear what this building was used for. There were scores of smaller private wards with bars attached to the windows. It was obviously some kind of secure unit where the most violent of the patients were held. We walked into one, and it was like a loop back round to the main corridor again, evidently designed to make it difficult for the patients to hide or escape. So we wandered down, noting that all the beds were just metal frames with nothing else. But as we turned the corner, there was one larger bed, the only one which had a mattress on it. What's more, this mattress has a large, dark stain marring the one white sheets. Once white. What's more, this mattress had a large, dark stain marring the once white sheets. It was a big stain, a horrendous smell emanating from it. Out of nowhere, one of my mates freaked out. He was pointing at the filthy, dust-covered floor, pointing towards a few patches of a similarly looking muddy stain that led from the ward. I would say that the most scared I've ever been was then. We were already a bit panicky, but seeing that had us fleeing the building as fast as we could. We decided to enter one more building before leaving, only it just so happened that this building was locked. Lucky, we found a basement door around the back, but you know those creepy thin stone steps that lead underground with a wooden door at the bottom? Yeah, it was one of those, hardly the most inviting threshold we'd ever seen. We pushed our way in and found ourselves in some kind of underground corridor that had all of the pipes on the ceiling running the length of it. At 6'1", I'm a big lad and I had to crouch a little bit just to get through, so you can imagine how it felt. Tight, low ceiling and pitch black. We dared each other to go first, but surprise, surprise, no one would volunteer themselves. Anyway, this corridor seemed to go on for ages, and we concluded that we were definitely in the underground network of utility tunnels that connected all of the buildings. There were a couple of staircases leading off every now and then, but most were blocked off, so we just continued as we could. After a good few minutes of walking, we arrived at the end of one particular corridor. It had a huge steel door like one of those classic hospital jail doors you see in films with the little window hatch at eye level. With apprehension, we pushed this open, The room was empty except for one thing. There was a single metal chair in the middle of the room fastened down to the floor, and above it, hanging down from the ceiling, were two metal chains with manacles attached to them. Even if we didn't know the room's true purpose, it may be the most disturbing thing I've ever laid eyes on. None of us knew what it was and what had likely happened there, but we could guess, and there's no way it was good. I realized as we were leaving that this was kind of a bizarre rite of passage. I always pronounce S's as like SH's sometimes, I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but... Miss Havisham, they took young children to the moors as young as 4, buried them across Dartmoor. Yikes, that sounds like a fun experience. Honestly, yeah, guys, if anybody, like, I'm looking for a scriptwriter who is interested in the topics of true crime, interested in the topics that people such as Rainbot or Nexpo, Nightmare Expo, and Scare Theater, the stuff that they cover, which is kind of like the strange aspects of the internet, where it's almost like internet drama, but it's like based around the weird parts. So if anybody, obviously I would be interested in paying someone to do this, you know, but I want it to be quality, obviously. I mean, we have a great editor in Robin that I have a lot of faith in, and I wanted it to kind of match that quality and be something good that I'm giving out to people. So if you feel confident in your writing skills and, you know, are relatively interested in the community overall, and you feel as if you could research topics and also do quite a bit of writing, or maybe even have topics that, you know, you're on top of that you think would make a good video that's not kind of covered to death by other channels and stuff like that, be sure to, you know, message me on Instagram or in Discord or something like that. Just shoot me a DM or over email, and maybe even give me an example of your work if you're so inclined. But I, you know, just looking for someone that's capable of writing but also passionate about the ideas that they want to convey to people, the topics and all that. So yeah, you can consider this kind of a all bulletins. Nipple belts going for $53. That's good to know. Can do a video about nipple belts. But yeah, dragon marker. Yeah, I want everyone to put their mind to paper. Basically, you know, even if we have multiple script writers going at one time, like everybody like assisting and coming together with new ideas, it might, you know, depending on how long it is, it might, you know, I definitely still want the videos to be somewhere between like 20 to 30 minutes because I know people subscribe to the channel to listen to me narrate and read. So I would hope to do these kind of mini documentaries that are about a half an hour or more, you know, somewhere between like maybe once a month or more, because obviously editing for Robin for something of that length might take a bit of time, and you know, you want it to be quality. So yeah, you know, hit me up, let me know what ideas you got, and we'll go from there. I think it'll be fun. All right. You can reach out to a lady called Stephanie Arlo. She's honestly amazing. Sure, yeah. Reach out to anybody that you might know that would fit that bill, and I think it would really help the channel going forward, you know, just maybe even, you know, do kind of like how like Rob Dyke would always have like things like, you know, the title, and it would be like Seriously Strange or something like that. You know, I could come up with some sort of series title where it'd be like True Crime #1 or something, you know, True Crime Episode 1. That kind of thing, you know, where it's sort of a running series of sorts, and yeah. I realized that as we were leaving that it was kind of a strange rite of passage that I'd just undergone. This place was famous as a place of evil among the Shit, sorry. Warnades says, you literally have true crime scripts for podcasts that I've never used, as I'm leaning more towards podcasting for stuff like D&D. I'll send them. Okay, yeah, that would be cool. Would love to check them out, for sure. For sure. For sure. Episode 1. Oh yeah, true crime and cults. Cults would be very interesting. I've realized that as we were leaving, this was kind of a bizarre rite of passage that I had just gone on. God damn it. Sorry. I realized that as we were leaving, this was kind of a bizarre rite of passage I'd just under. God, dude, I can't read this English. I can't read English. Yeet. I say Penguin says, I can make and send you a script for Unit 731. It's basically a Japanese Holocaust during World War II. Interesting. Yeah, that would be... Yeah, covering stuff like history would also be very cool. A dating site for true crime and horror fans. That would be fun. That's my Discord. Meet your future spouse in there. I realized that as we were leaving, this was kind of a bizarre rite of passage I'd just undergone. This place was famous as a place of evil among the locals, but I'd never even heard of it. Now, after a night of exploring the most haunted place in Lancashire, I appreciated that now. I too had my own little Whittingham story. I would be able to regale both locals and my friends back home with the story of how I ventured Whittingham, but it came with a price. The price of never, ever being able to get the image of that final room out of my mind, and the inability to ever stop wondering about the horrors that went on there. God, my voice squeaked. The price of never, ever being able to get the image of that final room out of my mind, and the inability to ever stop wondering about the horrors that went on there. Samantha, would I ever consider doing a video on Bohemian Grove and the Winchester Mystery House? I've heard of Bohemian Grove being like a weird... I mean, it's kind of done to death, you know what I mean? Like a lot of the conspiracy crowd has covered that enough. That's why I kind of lean towards... I definitely more lean towards new things, and that's like the stuff that Nexpo and Rainbow cover, like... Because they're not super frequent with their uploads, it's because they're looking for new topics, you know what I mean? A lot of the time, and writing scripts, and just, you know, it's sort of about, it's almost about getting the newest, like, scoop on something, you know, so I think that if my most preferred topics would be the ones about like the internet anomalies and the individuals like that, because that sort of interests me the most, as opposed to like true crime or history. Class A Pension says, where can I send my script? I'll get started on it. Yeah, so there's a link down below. Well, not a link, but my email is letsreadsubmissions@gmail.com, and that's also down below in the description. But yes. Miss Havisham says, I was just finished watching a 3-hour documentary on Jim Jones and the Jonestown Massacre. My mind is still bamboozled on how he controlled 900 plus people to do his bidding. Yeah. Religion in the wrong hands can certainly lead to some bad things. I remember there was this one part in Red Dead Redemption where you stumble across like an old farmhouse of sorts or whatever, and go inside, or maybe it's almost like a schoolhouse or like a church, and inside, like everybody in the pew and up at the front, they're just like a bunch of dead corpses and stuff that have clearly been there for quite a while, rotting. And then you find a note that talks about waiting for some particular individual or being to, they gave their lives to then be, their spirits to then be transported to some sort of ethereal realm. And it was interesting because then after you leave there, all of a sudden in the sky at nighttime, you see like a green, you hear like kind of a low humming and like green light and stuff. And if you look up, you briefly get a glimpse of, you know, like like an alien spaceship, like going up into the air and like leaving really fast. And that happened to me organically while playing Red Dead Redemption, and it was amazing. I was just like, oh my god, I literally just saw aliens in Red Dead Redemption 2, and it all happened just on my own accord. So that was really cool. There's a lot of little neat moments in that game. Cat worship with Natalia. You're talking about an entire Egyptian culture. I would be able to regale both locals and my friends back home with the story of how I'd ventured Whittingham, but that came with a price. The price of never, ever being able to get the image of that final room out of my mind, and the inability to stop wondering about the horrors that went on in there. I guess I already read that part, but you get into the muscle memory of like looking back at the screen, you're like, oh, this is where I left off. The Prodigy says, let's read. I watched your vids for 2 years. That's awesome. Yeah, I love hearing how long people have been with the channel, because I know it's so easy for some people to just kind of fall, like for subscribers to sort of fall off. Like that's what you see with channels with like millions of subs, but just like no views at all. So I really appreciate you guys sticking with the channel. From what I've found out, like the best way for you guys to get notified of new videos is definitely to hit that bell, the notification bell. I know that seems like a no-brainer, but if for whatever reason you haven't done that already, definitely smash that mother father life. just hit the bell, please. You watch these while playing YouTube or playing Fortnite. Oh yeah. I'm ready for Fortnite to die though. I'm ready to move on to the next big thing and me actually like it. Emily, yeah, Emily's been a patron for over 3 years now, which is pretty amazing. It's interesting when you see like people, like for me as a creator, to see the same names so frequently for such a long period of time. Like on Patreon, she'll always comment about it, you know, how the benefits her day, and that makes me feel really good, you know, just to see people still appreciating the content after this period of time. Yeah, I love you guys. And the fact that I can help people sleep too, I feel is of kind of a good exchange of services to one another. That's one thing I definitely, if someone helps me sleep, I would definitely continue subscribing to them, because that's a tough commodity to come by, I feel like. Natalia says, by the way, your vid came up 4th on my feed when I came back. Keep hitting them likes. Oh yeah. Smash that frickin' like button, hit that bell, do all the good stuff. Yeah. Alright, so we're on story 6 of 7. 6 of 7. Number 6. I picked up a poop dollar. It didn't become a poop dollar till it went in my pants. Ever want to do another animated horror story? Those are pretty cool. I definitely do, and I think that based on what I've seen from Robin Mikalsen, the editor I've been working with, he is so talented, and I honestly feel like he would make some really cool animations to go for future videos and that kind of thing. The Stovetop Ninja with the 5. Thank you, Stovetop Ninja. I like that name. I love you as well. Thank you. Caroline says, you don't sleep, you want to know what happens next. Hey, I appreciate that too. I'm glad the Vixa says you hate that voice. No, I'm not making fun of Chills. It's just kind of become like I find it's the voice. It's all in good fun, obviously, but I find the voice so funny that I just can't like help but not talk in that voice. It sort of becomes like an alternate personality I go into, or I don't know. I love Chills though. He's honestly, I've talked to him. Super nice dude. Definitely gives a good name to Canadians. There's an abandoned factory complex in Detroit that I've often seen posted about, both on Reddit as well as various other urbex sites around the internet. I personally explored the place about 8 or 9 times over the course of a decade, and each time I've found something new. This is because the complex is absolutely massive. I mean, it must be a few square kilometers all in all. What I've never seen posted nor even mentioned, however, is the maze of tunnels that run underneath. The subterranean network or underground passageways is filled with pipes and wiring that provides everything from steam and fresh water to chemical compounds and electrical power. The tunnels are all extremely low, narrow, that descend... What does that mean? Sorry. The tunnels are all extremely low, narrow, low and narrow, okay. The tunnels are all extremely low and narrow that descend at least 15 to 20 feet under the earth. Each one leads into a series of basement rooms under each section of the complex, and, to the relief of many urban explorers, are complete with emergency escape hatches that take you way out into the woods surrounding the factory complex. I can't tell you the peace of mind that kind of feature brings an urbex enthusiast. Not many of us have died doing what we love, but the number is high enough for us not to want to become just another statistic. One weird thing about this particular site is that most of the entrances in the tunnel system are hidden in the walls. I pushed my way through an old plastic panel door once and found myself in a room that was the complex's mailroom, a place that I'd literally been 5 or 6 times before, but had never noticed that there was a hidden passage integrated into the network's plastic paneling. The complex has been abandoned since the late 80s, so entire sections of the tunnels are practically flooded from leaky and busted pipes. When you're down there, you're constantly hearing ambient noises, creaking pipes, the rumbling of the railroad above, echoes from your own movement. There is nothing remotely reflective down there, and aside from your own flashlight, there are no absolutely... Wait, what? Samantha with a 2 says, "How is your cat?" Let me look. He's good. He's laying on his side right now. He's nice and comfortable on my bed. Yes, he is minding his own business. The business of napping. Until it's time to slam his body into the door. It is really funny, like, when he wants in, he just, like, throws his body into the floor trying to get my attention, making all these weird noises. It's just, like, just so he can come in. And it's funny, because then if you walk up to the door, he's in runaway mode. So you have to, like, open the door slowly and hide behind it, and then he kind of, like, wanders in, like, what's going on in here? It's not like I wanted in here, but I guess since the door's open, I'll come in. Oh. He's such a good kitty. He's so good. Okay. Sorry. Creaky pipes, the rumbling. There is nothing remotely reflective down there, and aside from your own flashlight, there's absolutely zero sources of light. Plus, if you skimp on the aforementioned flashlight and get one with a weak beam, it can get kind of difficult to make out details in the darkness. Often you're left relying upon the slight tonal differences of what you can see to determine what something is before you're right up on it. First of all, I had a really dumb and dangerous habit of going to these places alone. It's hard to find people willing to commit to doing such scary stuff, but the bottom line is that if you don't have a buddy to urbex with, you shouldn't go at all. Pretty much every urbex veteran will tell you that, and many people actually end up traveling too far off places. Oopsies. The Stovetop Ninja with 5 buckaroonies. Thank you, Stovetop. I don't know if you had a message. Oh, she says for shits and giggles. Well, I am shitting and giggling at the same time for that. So thank you. Oh, you're allergic to cats. Yeah-oh. Yeah, I'm fortunate to have avoided any of those allergies, though sometimes when after I get done shoving my face into his, or vice versa, I do kind of get a bit of a sniffle going from all of his stray hairs. Pradeep gets his own Twitter account. That would be a good one. Him doing various laying poses. Getting his chin scratched. Pretty much every urbex veteran will tell you that, and many people actually end up traveling to far-off places just so someone has a buddy to explore somewhere with. But the last time I was in the tunnels, I was by myself, with a single AA battery-powered 75 to 100 lumen LED flashlight. To the uninitiated, that won't mean anything, but any hardened urbex enthusiast will tell you that that's way too weak a torch for underground tunnels. With zero ambient light, you really do need something powerful to cut through the darkness. And that was my first big mistake. So while I was down in the factory tunnels, all on my own, I decided to follow one particular passageway down to what was probably the water treatment facility for the complex. The tunnels slope quite steeply downward, so the leaking water I mentioned previously has collected at the tunnel's lowest point. At the end of the tunnel, I entered this large room with 2 huge water storage tanks, each of them at least 15 foot tall. There is probably an inch of filthy, stagnant water on the floor, stinking and making a loud sploshing sound as I walked in it. Not exactly a deafening sound, I know, but when everything around you is completely still and silent, even the faintest noise sounds incredibly loud. I'm standing still, looking around with my flashlight, and from the opposite side of the room, around 20 or 30 feet away, I hear that same splashing sound. Only it's not an echo. There is something else in this underground room with me. I'm gonna have to do that again. Only it's not an echo. There is someone else in this underground room with me. I shine my flashlight across the huge dark room, but I don't see a thing. All I'm hearing is that horrible wet splashing sound of footsteps in the water. All of a sudden, I shine the light on this human shape that is completely covered in black clothing. I mean, it was so black that there was no difference in the shading or anything. It's just like a shadow against the peach-colored concrete wall. I stammer out a nervous greeting, and all of a sudden I can see this person's 2 eyes flash up. A distinct pale blue back my flashlight. I mean, I knew it was a person. I'm not a believer in ghosts or the supernatural, so it's not like I was scared out of my mind. But people can be weird. I know that firsthand. I don't know if the person was in some kind of bodysuit or what, but it's impossible to make out anything distinguishing about them other than the color of their eyes. I don't know what kind of weirdo sets out in a full black getup to rummage around the underground, but this guy's silence was beginning to seriously creep me out. What's more, I noticed that he didn't have a torch. He didn't have anything in his hands for that matter. So how was he able to find his way around in the dark? Sure, he could have turned it off when he'd heard me coming, but at the time it really made me feel uneasy. After all, it's fear of the unknown that's without a doubt man's biggest fear. Then out of nowhere, he just rushes me, splashing through the shallow pool of water, sprinting my direction. I just freak out, spinning on my heels and absolutely bolting back the way I had come. I'm flying up the inclined tunnel, slipping and sliding all over the place on the slippery, slimy concrete. I fell down a bunch of times, grazing my knees quite badly and straight up breaking my wrist at one point. But I didn't feel the pain. Pure adrenaline just kept me flying through those tunnels towards the emergency exit. It must have only taken a couple of minutes to get out of there, but it felt like an hour of sprinting through this tunnel network, praying I wouldn't get turned around, praying the man in black wouldn't find me. It was the closest thing I've experienced to a living nightmare. I've never been so terrified in all my life. I'm sure whoever I met down there in the dark was probably as terrified as I was. Maybe they thought I was going to attack them, hence why they turned off their own light source and rushed me. It was just my gut reaction, kind of a primal self-preservation. Now, looking back, I have no reason to believe they actually followed me. They probably ran back the way they came, same as I did. But just so we're clear, I've never visited an urbex site alone since, even if it takes waiting a while to find a buddy, because no abandoned building is worth meeting that one weird stranger who isn't scared. Ruh-roh. Mel Ann with the 2 buckarones says, "You are hella talented, sir." Thank you. Gracias Mimasius. Kaylin says, "I feel bad. My baby's dad came to rub the belly. It normally helps, but I got mad and told him to leave and put my headphones in because Joel's voice off." Maybe that mixed with some belly rubs, you know? That'd be the perfect remedy for what ails thee. Wilco Zox. Hey Joel, what's happening? Nothing much, just we have reached our last story of the night. Also, I haven't eaten all day. Actually out of choice, because the night before I ate a entire pizza and ice cream combo. And sometimes the best way for me to recover from that is to just straight up freaking fast and stuff. If you guys ever fasted, it's not terrible. In fact, I feel like a lot of people can fast more than they think, but it just, after I get those I think it kind of makes it worse though, because then later in the day you just want something with the most possible calories ever, and I'm kind of really craving dates. If you've ever had dates, I think they're called Mariana or something like that. They're pretty much like giant raisins covered in syrup. Yeah, the Mariani Packing Company. Oh yeah, Mariani pitted dates. It looks like something from a carnival, and they kind of remind me a little bit of like cockroaches covered in syrup. And if one of them was a cockroach covered in syrup and I ate it, I would never be none the wiser, because when I'm eating them, I just devour them until eventually I feel sick, and it's a great feeling. Tiny Green Turtles, welcome. Just popping in for a bit. I like to see that. Just in time for one story. You can stay for one story, huh? Ah! Ah! I should lube the lips for this one. Cody Bryant. I don't know, it sounded like Kobe Bryant. Says, "Bro, fucking Igor is on, friend passed out, uncle and dad drunk, and I'm paranoid." I don't know if I understand what any of that meant, but it sounds rough. Forever Unicorn says, I can no longer fast. Gastric surge, at least not for a couple of years after. Oh, yeah. I don't know much about gastric surges, but that sounds rough. Rough! That sounds rough! Sarcasticat says you have a wedding date set. That's amazing. I wish you well in your forever years together. Stay faithful to each other. Stay close, communicate, and stay faithful. Back when I was a sophomore in high school, my friends and I got heavily into urban exploring. We spent a lot of time in Urbex forums online, uploading photos and sharing experiences, but it wasn't long before we found ourselves in a kind of friendly competition with a group from Ohio. The Michigan-Ohio rivalry is very real, and although we weren't exactly into college football, we still relished the chance to show up our counterparts in the next state over. It was a playful rivalry, however. I mean, who could ever take pride in the whole "my state is more messed up than your state" thing? So one summer, my Urbex friends and I were on a long bike ride, scouting for potential Urbex sites in an old rundown industrial area out near Kalamazoo. We take a break in this wooded area and one of my friends goes off into the bushes to pee. About a minute later, we hear them shout excitedly for us to come look at something. Once we make a few jokes about his junk being nothing to write about home, about, we follow and lay eyes on his sweet little discovery. It was this creepy old cave. I mean, it seriously looked like it could be the secret entrance to the Bat Cave or something. But a little preliminary exploration revealed that the place was an abandoned cement mine. Mines required a lot more specialist equipment. Any seasoned Urbexer will tell you that it's crucial to bring respirators to anywhere where air quality might be compromised. Mines are filled with all kinds of stuff that you really don't want in your lungs. So about 2 weeks later, after a fair amount of planning and preparation, all 4 of us returned to the abandoned cement mine with the appropriate safety gear and a camera, ready to properly explore. We discovered there was basically one main shaft that sloped deep down into the earth, so we followed that main route. It was wide enough to drive a pickup truck through and was still in a pretty decent condition, so traversing the mine shaft was much easier than we'd first thought. There were many rooms, old machinery and rusting equipment off of this main shaft, but we mostly avoided it in the beginning. We were just trying not to get lost or turned around in the darkness. As we shined our flashlights along the smooth rock walls, we saw that they were almost, whoopsies. Don't let anyone push you into something you do not want to do or are not ready for. That is sound advice. Stephanie says the only person who can look after you is you. This is also sound advice. Honestly, if you're going into a relationship, the best thing you can do for your partner, at least from what I have grasped, is understand that that person is not going to be what completes you, even as much as the fairy tales like to tell you that. That person will be a great complement to who you are, but do your best to better yourself as well as you possibly can, so in that you don't place all of those insecurities on someone else and end up damaging someone else along with it. I mean, we're all going to have insecurities and weaknesses, but do your best to be the best you can be, so then you can give that amazing person that's with you the gift of who you are, really, so it's terrible whenever, I don't know, you still have a lot of growing to do, and a lot of people like this might not realize it and then end up becoming something that's potentially dragging someone down or manipulating them into something that's not so good. Mornades says, I refuse to explore abandoned mines now, as I explored one I used to live by at 3 a.m. alone before my experience messed you up, man. Yeah, I would never go into an abandoned mine alone. Save that for Minecraft, Reza, why everybody telling their life stories? There's nothing much else to do in this chat than tell your life story, and I welcome it. I hope everybody does tell it. Cody Bryant, I have 0 subs, cry. Cody, you gotta put out some quality content, my friend. We'll be waiting. Alright, so where was I? About 2 weeks later, about a fair amount of planning and preparation, all 4 of us returned. Minds are filled with all kinds of stuff that you really don't want in your lungs. So about 2 weeks later, after a fair amount of planning and preparation, all 4 of us returned to the abandoned cement mine with the appropriate safety gear and a camera, ready to properly explore. We discovered there was basically one main shaft that sloped down into the earth, so we followed that main route. It was wide enough to drive a pickup truck through and was still in a pretty decent condition, so traversing the minecraft was much easier than we'd first thought. I said Minecraft, oh my god. So traversing the mine shaft was much easier than we'd first thought. There were many rooms, old machinery... There were many rooms, old machinery, and rusting equipment off of this main shaft, but we mostly avoided it in the beginning. We were just trying not to get lost or turned around in the darkness. As we shone our flashlights along the smooth rock walls, we saw that they were almost covered in spray paint graffiti. Mostly just the classic abandoned building stuff. Jimmy was here, swastikas, initials, and dates. But as we got deeper and deeper, the graffiti really thinned out. Whoever was hanging out here before us obviously didn't go too deep into the mine, probably for good reason. As we wandered deeper and deeper into the old abandoned mine shaft, all natural light had faded, and we were relying solely on our high-powered flashlights. The air was so stagnant and hazy with particles that even the light from expensive flashlights would only go about 20 feet or so before getting totally obscured by dust. Oh, and that dust has us thanking the big guy upstairs that we'd remember to pack them. The glow sticks we had brought were basically useless because they would disappear in the haze. What? Oh, and that dust has us thanking the big guy upstairs that we remember to pack them. Oh, maybe the respirator? Oh, and that dust has us thanking the big guy upstairs that we'd remembered to pack the respirators. And the glow sticks that we had brought were basically useless because they would disappear in the haze only a few steps after dropping them, and we had only bought a handful. Once we were about 30 feet below the earth, we started arguing among ourselves. Our little crew was nervous about going deeper with the air quality being so terrible and without a good way to prevent us from getting lost. We somehow managed to override our anxieties by assuring ourselves that the path was easy and straightforward, so we'd have a hard time getting lost. We were going to rely on level-headedness, sense of direction, and flashlight battery life to get out. Despite the agreement to push on, it was becoming very creepy for everyone. We walked in total silence for a long time, hearing nothing but our own footsteps and the steady drip of water coming from somewhere deep in the cave. I think we were all pretty scared at this point, but nobody was willing to admit it to each other. Call it bravado or whatever, but we just kept pushing on. Pushing further and further into the mine, we stumbled across something that had us stopped in our tracks. Dug into the side of the deep stone shaft we were slowly descending was diverging tunnel. Dug into the side of the deep stone shaft we were slowly descending was diverging tunnel. Little more than a passageway cut into the rock, it was narrow. You'd have to crouch to go through it, and it was also a good few feet of ground, so it required a scramble to reach it. But that wasn't what made us stop. It was the graffiti. We hadn't seen any of it for a while, and like I said, we assumed the graffiti artists had never gone this deep. But someone else clearly had, and the messages they left were disturbing to say the least. The tunnel was lined with words written in white, chalky substance. Crap. Okay. The tunnel was lined with words written in a white, chalky substance. Words like rot, decay, plague, and carrion. They were just words scrawled by some degenerate, but it scared the life out of us. Who else would come this far just to write such a terrible message in a mysterious tunnel that broke from the main path? However, no matter how scared we were, there was no turning back now. We had to see where the tunnel led to. Despite our fear, we were overwhelmed by the intense curiosity. So, as foolish as it seems now, one by one we crawled through the tunnel to the other side. What we found was a strange flooded chamber. Around the pool of water was a series of these large carved stones, each covered with dozens of burned-out candles. There must have been hundreds of pieces of melted wax dripping down each of the stone pieces. The walls had a few twisted, malformed faces scrawled on them, and the tunnel entrance back to the main shaft was ringed with a spray-painted, blood-stained mouth. What was this place? Some bizarre cloister where black masses were performed or something? An elaborate hoax set up by a bunch of kids. We couldn't find much evidence to figure it all out, and we were all absolutely exhausted by this point, both from the exertion and the adrenaline crash. We all crawled out of that weird little chamber and back into the main mine shaft, where we promptly headed towards the exit. When we finally saw natural light coming from the main entrance, we were relieved beyond words. We never did figure out what that mysterious cavern was for, and I think I'm content to leave it at a mystery. No, we didn't hear any eldritch creatures howling in the depths of the tunnel, nor did any... entranced. God. No, we didn't hear any eldritch creatures howling in the depths of the tunnel, nor did we find any entranced devil worshippers, but just finding that room, buried deep in an old forgotten mine, was enough to creep all of us out for a long time. Hashtag white Morgan Freeman. Let's get it going, let's get it trending. Well guys, we have reached mistake counter 50, that's not too bad. We have reached the end of the Strimstram. I'll now be reading my outro as usual. If there is something that you would like me to add to it that might make it more personal whenever you listen to these later, please let me know. Time to get to 69, yeah. They found the subterranean ASMR cult, they did it, yeah. Let's read. Where is that return of the Velveteen Rabbit story on your channel? That's your favorite story. Yeah, I think it was one of the science fiction stories I read when I first started out. Well, it was from a science fiction site, and I had to get rid of it because it was, it was back whenever I was kind of just reading stories and not really thinking about being like, oh, hey, can I read that story? So I just didn't want to get in trouble for it whenever it really, definitely wouldn't be worth that. Identity theft is not a joke, Jim. I think that's some sound advice. The Nelts, use that. What is the Nelts? We got to about 320 some concurrent viewers. The worst thing about the prison was the Dementors. I like that, actually. Yeah, guys, thanks for hanging out. You can, if you want to chill until completely bounce here, that's fine. If you got other preoccupations to do, this is all good too. But I'm gonna say my outro here. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. If you got a story, be sure to submit them to my subreddit, r.let's.read.official, and give and receive feedback from the community, and maybe even hear your story featured on the next video. And join my Discord to interact with me and other listeners directly. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations for just $1 a month on Patreon, and maybe even pick up some Let's Read merchandise on Spreadshirt. All links in the bio. Thanks so much, friends, and remember, the worst thing about prison was the Dementors. That was perfect. But yeah, I love you guys. Thanks so much for coming and hanging out. Thank you so much to everyone who donated. That was very generous, and I appreciate it. Keep me alive, keep me eating, keep me eat these dates so I can come back and make some more scary stories. But yeah, join the Discord if you guys want to kind of a little bit of an after party, or if you're bored. There's a lot of good people in there, a lot of good friends you can make on there, which is fun. I enjoy the positive environment, a lot of interesting topics everyone's always talking about, and you may or may not catch me in there in a voice chat sometime and get to chat IRL, except, well, not really IRL, but you get the idea. Well, anyways, we'll see ya soon.